you know the words, Jackie? And it for money, for the show. We get ready now, go, 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 don't stop. Mess on my sweet cheek. You can do anything, they are my sweet cheek. You can knock me down, slap in my face, say my name all over the place. Do anything that you want me to do, but honey, they are my blue shoes, so don't stop. They're my blue.
So today we're at the Age UK Centre in Wood Street in Tunbridge Wells, and we are working with a group of slightly older people living with dementia, and we're working with the Tunbridge Wells Puppetry Festival on a shadow puppetry play project.
Last year, I think it was, we took part in the festival with a show of ours, and then they invited us back to run this shadow puppetry workshop series of sessions. It is based around puppetry. We're going to do a little shadow puppetry film at the end of it, but with the group that we're working with, we're just doing anything creative that engages them and gets stories going. So essentially, we want to get their stories.
And then we're going to use some of those stories and the shadow puppetry work that they've been doing in the sessions to create a film that kind of sums up some of their experiences and really give them a creative outlet for kind of what's happening and what's going on in their lives right now and in the past.
They're aged between 65 to sort of 95, so it's quite a big range. They've got stories from all over the world, from a world that I can't imagine because it's so much before my time, and so it's quite inspiring to talk to them.
What we found running these sessions so far is that actually giving them something practical to do with their hands, a task, storytelling, making, cutting, drawing, what it does is it kind of focuses their mind as well as improving their motor skills, which can be difficult when you're slightly older. But we're finding as they're doing that, because there's no sort of real pressure to talk to us, to remember, to tell us stories, actually the opposite happens, that they want to talk to us more and they want to tell us about their lives, and it's a huge privilege to be let into some of these memories, and that's super exciting for us. But it seems to be that the doing of the task reduces the pressure on all of those other areas and actually encourages them to engage with remembering more, which is really interesting.
We've already got little pieces of information and little golden nuggets of history, and try and feed that into one combined story that will then make into a 10-minute shadow puppetry film. So, for example, there's one of the participants loves jazz and used to go to a club in New Orleans, and then there's another participant who used to be a theatre set designer and costume designer. So we're sort of going to try and weave those stories together and make a 10-minute piece based on that. Luke with me today, who is very musical, and we're going to do some guitar, some songs, a bit more movement and dance work. I'm not a dancer, but I like getting them engaged and moving, and I do a lot of music work.
Hey, Sarah, Sarah, whatever will be, the future's not ours to see. Hey, Sarah, Sarah, what will be. Now I have children, well, they ask their mother, what would I be? tenderly. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera.
We actually performed as part of Tunbridge Wells Puppetry Festival with our show in our hands, and we've known Linda Lewis for a long time, who then basically came to us with this sort of project idea. We then put together a proposal of what we could do, what we could achieve, the outcomes, and then so it's sort of been in the pipeline for about a year. Usually we're quite a research heavy based company. We like to do a lot of research so that we know that what we're doing on stage or in other music videos or whatever it might be is truth. So for example with Cell, we're working with people who are living with motor neuron disease, so we had to have a certain amount of sensitivity around that, and also meeting people living with MND to sort of gather their sort of stories and their experiences. And then with sort of our other show, which is about fishing, we went and did a load of fishing. We went to Cornwall for a week and sort of lived like fishermen to kind of get that experience. But I guess with this project, the process has sort of been the other way around. We've done planning as to what we want to try and do, and then obviously we've gone into the sessions and had to adapt or change. It's sort of been the first time where we're working with people to get their actual memories. Although we may adapt that later in the video, it's about getting their memories and sort of doing the research as we go and having to adapt and change and maybe come up with ideas and then scrap ideas and then come up with new ideas, or suddenly a better idea comes up. So it's kind of, you know, there was so much from all the stories, you know, we could have easily created an hour-long show about it, but so we've had to really sort of hone in on some of the stories. And yeah, so hopefully what we're going to be able to portray is some individual stories and some group stories, and also present it in a way that's in our particular style of puppetry, but with also having those hints at the work that the guys have been doing in the sessions. I think when you've got a sort of whole 10-minute video, it's about working out how long you're going to spend on shots. It can be easy to spend a lot of time on a lot of detail and stuff which is kind of lost. So for example, in my drawing, it's just quite basic, the lines, but then actually what gets done is a lot more detail, and the laser cutter picks up a lot more of the detail. So you're able to add details. So some of the shadows can be super complicated. Some of them, like this, can be fairly simple. It's just kind of a backdrop, and more of the work's done on the edit. But if you move to some of the moving puppets, for example, they can start to become quite complicated because you need to be aware of how they're going to move on the screen, where the rods are going to be able to fit. And what you don't want is to be able to see any of these or the tape. So shadow puppets can look kind of ugly on the back in terms of where the tape is, but actually you need that sort of nice crisp finish on the front. And this shadow puppet particularly was taken from a design from Joyce, who drew this in one of the sessions. She used to be a costume maker, so something we've picked up was her story of what she's told, and we took this puppet and we kind of adapted it and designed it so that it looked like her original drawing, so that we've been able to use that in the shadow puppetry and take directly from what the guys have been telling us in the sessions and be able to put that directly into a story. I guess one of the main things that we spoke about was sort of ways in our initial meeting, ways in which we could sort of evoke memories. Was that through sort of pictures, or was that through music, or was that through puppetry? And one of the things that the guys have been doing in the sessions is doing exactly that, sort of pictures of, I don't know, let's say someone on a motorbike, for example, which then evoked a story which the group made up, which we're going to feature in the video, and also sort of music, which then provoked someone to start singing a song, which we're then using as well. So it was about trying to create as much material using their memories, using their current memories, using their past memories, future memories, and also sort of evoking the creative side. So two of the stories that we're going to feature in the video were completely made up, completely random, made up limericks or stories which we've sort of then either expanded on or been able to condense down or translate that into shadow. So that's been one of the main things that we wanted to do, is to make sure that we're giving them the opportunity to have their stories then put onto the shadow, as well as us sort of working out how that works logistically.
We really enjoy spending time in the community, and I think the kind of our indoor touring shows have a lot of research behind them, so the kind of understanding of, you know, medical things or diagnosis or what it's like to live in a certain time period with certain pressures, that always forms quite a huge part of our rehearsal process.
I think on this example is quite particular. I mean, we've done work with teenagers with autism, and we do that quite regularly, and that's really helpful for them in gaining confidence, whereas with this group it's more about, I mean, it is partly about confidence, but it's about engaging with them and respecting them and allowing them to feel like there's something fun to do in the day, and not just, you know, oh, it's another day to get through and it's a struggle. It's an opportunity to engage them.
Whilst we're learning about what it's like to live with dementia, we're also concentrating on the people we've got at hand and remembering that they are people and they want to have fun and they want to be creative. And I think what struck us is, you know, they're so joyful, they're so happy to be here and they're happy to see us, and I think, you know, we can really connect with them through creativity, through music, through drawing, through making, and they really, really enjoy it, and that's the best start for us, because that's what we enjoy doing too.
And it's sort of come to light in the last, I don't know, 10, 20 years that music particularly and creative work is really engaging for people living with dementia and helps them to come out of their shell and speak where maybe they haven't spoken for a while. So it's just really important for us to give them that chance.
It's a sort of a bandstand with curtains across, and the chairs laid out in front of it. And I got there in the front row. I was there, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, the band came out of a side entrance. All old men they were, and they were staggering along carrying their instruments like this, and I thought, oh, this is going to be awful. And they climbed up on the bandstand and started playing, and it was out of this world. It really was.
My window looked out into Bruton Street, next door to Norman Hartnell. We shared some of our customs with British people used to use Hartnell, didn't they? And we were always making special dresses for special parties. Very good for business. It was a case of going to Manchester School of Art, and from there on you sort of they got to sort of spot what you were good at, you know, and so that it ended up that people came looking for you.
Yeah.
And then took you off and then set you into their businesses designing things. So I was next door to Norman Hartnell in Bruton Street with a Jewish firm, and they have very big parties. They're very social. Mainly evening dresses and dressy things for special occasions. Family affairs where they have big parties and things on their own occasions. Perhaps that was a new dress for it, you know. So I enjoyed what I did, that was the main thing.
When I met King George VI. Yeah. My father was running a patrolling board during the war, and he was awarded the MBE. For some reason, I don't know why he took me and not my mother along to Buckingham Palace. When he came up and got his gong, I stood up to see because I couldn't see. And he came over afterwards, King George VI, and chatted to me. He didn't have a stutter.
Wow.
Amazing.
Stand up.
I subsequently had a very big dinner north of London, which we invited thousands of people. We gave a lot of money to sport.
There once was a farmer's son who was out looking for some fun. He was milking a cow, it was making a row, so he gave it a hot cross bun.
world and I was the only boy, nothing else would matter in this world today. We would go on loving in the same old way. A garden of roses just made for two, with nothing to mar our joy. There would be such wonderful things to do. There would be such wonderful things to show if you were the only girl in the world and I was the only boy.